How's it going, everybody? Let's go through some of the better epic champions there is out there in Raid Shadow Legends, shall we? Before we go any further, please go ahead and check out Aptoide if you haven't done so yet. It's gonna be allowing you to get yourself massive amounts of bonuses whenever buying anything in Raid Shadow Legends through Aptoide, right? So just as you are buying a pack normally and regularly, you're gonna be able to get a massive bonus that can go from extra 10% of your amount of money you're spending, all the way up to extra 35% of that much money. And the good thing about this whole thing is that once you have enough of the bonuses, you're gonna be able to use them to make the payments for you instead of actually using your real money, right? So you are saving up in further purchases in the future. We'll talk more about this whole thing at the end of the video. For now, let's keep going. Let's start it off with a free champion, Archmage Helmut. He's going to be allowing you to get a lot of extra increased crit damage on your team. You can assemble pretty much a 1 or 2 shot team for like the spider with some cold hearts in there. You got an increased speed aura, or rather buff over here, as well as an increased crit rate on all allies for the turns. You can also bring some control for the spider with an AoE stun only on 70% chance, but then anybody who's not stunned will also be getting a turn meter decrease by 20%. If you want to join my team in Raid Shadow Legends, click the link in the description to get a free Narma as well as Anax, Uugo, and Mausoleum Mage as you progress through the game. Here's what you need to do. First of all, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Then click the link in the description and register a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial, and then go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get a fresh start in Raid with a free Narma and 3 epic champs. Click on my link right now. And then he is going to be having a turn meter feel for himself, as well as that being increased if that attack is critical, and he does bring a speed aura, only in arena though, but it's good enough. Now moving on, and by the way, Archmage Helmut comes from the Doom Tower special levels that you will be getting some shards from. Then we have Stag Knight, and look at these reviews, man. He's literally insane everywhere. And the main reason, and pretty much the only reason for that, is going to be his A2, where he's going to be applying the big version of both decreased defense and decreased attack debuffs for 2 turns on a 100% chance of doing so. Actually, is it a 95% chance? It is, actually. And it's an AoE application, right? You're going to be bringing 2 of the most important debuffs to put in the game in a single champion, as well as a decreased speed debuff on a single target, man. He's got all the debuffs you want in the game. I mean, there's more, but literally he's going to be bringing the most important ones, and then he has an increased accuracy buff for an ally over here and there, which is going to be nice, but the main reason to bring him is going to be for all that debuffing. I also want to mention Lady Annabelle, who can solo Bomal on the Doom Tower. Bomal, he's quite a tanky guy, and she's literally going to be able to solo him through some leech mechanics, revive on death. She's just going to be bringing a lot of the right tools. Now, I haven't even tried her in that setup in particular, but she's going to be hitting and healing by % of their max HP of herself. Then she is going to be leeching a lot, decreasing the speed, applying the revive on death onto herself, increase speed on all allies. Then she is going to, I think she does have a health swap as well over here. If this champion's HP is equal to or higher than the targets after the swap, here we go, swap HP with the target ally. So she can do a lot of things, man. She's going to be healed by 50% of herself whenever an ally or enemy dies, and you can do so through all the bombs in Bomal, I believe. So yeah, she's got a lot of tools to do that right. Another champion that's going to be nuts for a pretty much 1 or 2 shot build for the spider. Look at this guy, man. Royal Guard 4.9 on the spiders. Then why is that? He's going to be bringing a decreased defense on his A1 at the big or rather the big one. There we go. We also got an AoE attack that's going to be scaling with the enemy's max HP. So there we go, doing a lot of damage to the spider. And then he's also going to be bringing a decreased speed debuff, and each hit also having a chance of decreasing the target's turn meter, right? So you're going to be pairing him with some cold hearts and the champion we talked about, which is going to be scaling the crit damage done. And there we go, you got a team that can pretty much 1, 2, 3 shot the spider. Then you already have an attack aura in all dungeons by 35%, contributing just what you need for that. Now, an incredible valuable champion with also very high reviews literally everywhere, specifically faction wars, which is whatever. It's going to be Bergis, also of the High Elves faction. He's incredibly defensive, as you can see. He's going to be bringing some reflect damage, which can be be spreading out in random allies whenever he uses SA1. He also brings a multi-layered buffing system over here. We have some continuous healing, some increased speed, some reflect damage on a random target ally for 3 turns, also placing ally protection buff on all allies and placing an increased defense buff on himself. This guy does it all on a 3-turn cooldown. Look at that list of buffs, man. Look at all of that stuff he's bringing to the table. And then on top of that, he's also bringing some shielding for himself. Whenever he loses more than 10% of his HP in a single hit, he's going to be getting that shield applied to himself. And then whenever he drops below 50% HP, he's going to be getting a continuous heal buff, right? So he is tanky, man, and look at that, he also increases the defense in all dungeons by 33%. On the Sacred Order, I mean, we gotta give it to Deacon Armstrong, one of the better epic champions there is overall in the game. Look at those reviews, man. 4.5 and over pretty much everywhere, unless it's like Sand Devil, Phantom Shogun, and Iron Twins. But anyways, he's insane, mainly because of his A3, where he fills the turns meter, or rather the turn meter of everybody, as well as decreasing the turn meter of all enemies. So AoE turn meter decrease, as well as granting an extra turn to himself. That extra turn is nuts, believe me. Then he also brings an AoE decreased defense debuff to literally everybody. So you got a speed up kind of ally, or rather champion on your team, which will also be bringing a little bit of leech debuffing. It's going to be getting some extra healing to the team from this, but just turn meter controlling, both increasing your teams and decreasing the enemy's teams, and placing that decreased defense debuff on a pretty low cooldown, also doing quite some damage. He is doing it all, man. And a very special mention to Mordecai. He's gonna be one of the most accessible HP burners in the game, especially for Spider. If you're not really able to assemble a one-shot team like I was mentioning before, you're gonna have to grind it away, or rather the normal way, which is going to be to apply HP burns to the boss and all the Spider links, and this guy is going to be able to do exactly that. He will be able to apply the HP burns that we go through the A3, 75% chance of placing an HP burn debuff on all enemies, right? Just from that. Also increases an increased attack buff on all allies, so he's bringing quite some synergies, a little bit of accuracy if you're running low on that. Chance of decreasing the turn meter of all enemies and filling the turn meter of all allies, so doing a little bit of Deacon Armstrong here. He doesn't get the extra turn though, and then he is just going to be doing decreasing the turn meter, the target's turn meter, so again, a little bit of extra control onto the boss here mainly, and 60% chance if the target is under an HP burn debuff, which is kind of the goal of this whole champion, right? So that's always going to be happening. Decent chance anyways is going to be scaling up to 75% of actually being quite a decent turn meter controller, as well as an HP burn spreader. We also gotta give it to Phoenix, man, probably the best champion there is for the Ice Golem pick as well as Arena, and the main reason for that is the A1 can cancel, or rather it carries enemies cannot be revived whenever he does kill somebody with his A1. He's an attack champion, so that A1 is going to be slaying. You're going to be spreading out those cannot be revived very much everywhere, and that is going to be perfect for the Ice Golem. That's all you care about. Then he also brings an AoE block buffs with an 80% chance of that actually happening, and if it does not happen, instead of blocking buffs, it's going to be blocking active skills, right? There we go. So then he has a little bit of a synergy here with bomb debuff detonation. Anyways, we're not going to be really focusing on that. And finally, he does also bring decreased defense as well as decreased speed on this A3 on a single enemy on a 4-turn cooldown with only a 60% chance of happening, but it's quite decent. Overall, he's a massive champion, probably one of the better ones in the game, honestly. I mean, we gotta give it to High Katoon. She's a free champion. Everybody's gonna be getting it so damn easily and quick in the game. She's decently alright for an early game speed up kind of champion with an ally increase, or rather speed increase for literally everybody everywhere. And she does have a little bit of an AoE with a decreased turn meter, only with a 75% chance, but she's alright already. Then she has an increase all allies speed. There we go, 30%, the bigger one, and then filling the turn meter. So you got speed decreasing, or rather turn meter decreasing, turn meter increasing, the speed. You got an A1 here with a decreased speed debuff. She is kind of a speed control champion, which is going to be extremely accessible, and she's one of the biggest enablers on basically all forms of content on a very early game kind of setup. On to the Ogre tribes, we have 3 special mentions over here. First of all, starting with the Skull Crusher, who's going to be having mainly a use here for the clan boss through his passive decreasing the duration of all debuffs on himself at the start of each turn, literally, and avoiding completely the stun debuff. He's going to be the target of such stuns. once, which should ideally be the case. Then he does bring an ally protection, a counter attack buff, and an unkillable buff for himself, which can be extremely useful. But honestly, the counter attack here is really what's going on, where he's going to be enabling your entire team to dish out massive amounts of damage to the enemy whenever there's some AoE going on, as well as a little bit of a healing reduction, which doesn't really apply to the clan boss, and just some resistance, which is whatever. You're mainly really here bringing him for the ally protection and counter attack. And then we have the Man Eater, man, another enabler for Demon Lord cheating. I would really just call it cheating. He does bring an unkillable dove on all allies for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, which if you pair it together with the right champions, you're going to be able to get this buff being infinite, right? With the right setup, with 2 Man Eaters properly sped up, and with the right cooldown reduction, you can have an unkillable team for the Demon Lord all the way up to, round 30 or 50. Anyways, he does also have a little bit of a decreased attack debuff that's going to be, of course, being placed onto the boss, which is key component of high stages on the Demon Lord. But anyways, if you're doing an unkillable setup, this decreased attack debuff is kind of whatever. We couldn't keep going with mentioning Uugo with an AoE revive literally everybody. He also has a mechanic where if he's the last champion standing, he's going to be increasing his own speed. He's going to be blocking damage, so he can just go back and actually use his A3, so revives literally everybody. He also brings decreased defense as well as block buffs. He's mainly useful in PvP. That's where you really see him shining. A little bit of leech, not bad whatsoever, but it's really all about this guaranteed, sort of guaranteed way of getting the entire team back into the fight as soon as they are all dead. I totally skipped the Lizardmen because they suck, and I just straight up went over to the Skinwalkers, where we have Fane, one of the better champions there is for the Demon Lord. She's going to be bringing a couple things that are extremely important. It's not going to be the A1, it's mainly going to be the A2, where she applies 2 poisons on a 100% chance of this happening every time she uses the A2, as well as a decreased attack debuff, one key component for the Demon Lord. And then she also brings a decreased defense debuff, another key component for Demon Lord, together with a weakened debuff on top of that, so making it take extra damage even. She brings all the key components to actually making the Demon Lord fall over really damn soon. And I do want to mention Akentum, which is a prime poisoner. He's got massive reviews literally everywhere. He's got a lot of AoE damage through his A2 here, spreading some hex debuffs. He's got a lot of poisoning here, potentially a triple poison application every single use of the A1 with a debuff spread effect, so he can spread out all the poisons onto literally everybody here whenever they are also under a hex debuff. So you got the AoE hex debuff application, and then you got the poison application, and he is also going to get a lot of extra speed from his aura, as well as just getting chances of also having extra ticks of that poison whenever enemies are having the hex debuff also applied onto them. So he's gonna be doing a lot of poison damage, believe me. On the Orcs faction, we're gonna mention the Seer, man. She is nuts, in particularly on the Dragon's Lover. Like, look at all the reviews. She's crazy in all forms of dungeons, and there's gonna be a couple of reasons for that. She brings an increased crit buff for all allies, as well as a weakened debuff for all enemies, all together in a single A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. But she's gonna have this massive A3 on a 4-turn cooldown, where she removes all buffs from all allies and all enemies, and then attacks all enemies. And the damage is gonna be scaling according to the number of removed buffs in total, meaning that she's gonna be doing a massive amount of AoE damage, also having a chance of applying a sleep debuff after that, which is gonna be scaling up from 50% based off of the amount of buffs removed by this ability. You're gonna be cleansing your entire team and also the enemies of their buffs, but it's gonna be well worth it for the amount of damage done. And then we have Tagor, another reviver who's going to be great literally everywhere. He also brings an increased defense buff on the A1 on the ally with the lowest HP. Then he has all here an AoE, which is going to be increasing the speed of all your allies, as well as doing a little bit of a healing based off of this champion's max HP. Him being a support is going to be quite beefy, so that HP is going to be quite, or rather translating into quite a meaningful heal. And then he does have this revive over here, which is going to be placing a shield buff on all allies, no matter whether or not they are revived. So there we go, you got shielding, you got some defense increases, you got some increased speed, as well as a just natural and passive damage reduction received from all allies whenever they are under 50% HP or less. Onto the demon spawn, I want to be doing 2 mentions. Over here we have Allure, which is just prime peak dungeon gameplay, particularly for the Fire Knight, where she is going to be bringing everything you need in a champion to make the Fire Knight extremely easy. She will attack here on her A1, decreasing the turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. She can single-handedly deal the entire turn meter control onto the Fire Knight. Then she's gonna be having an AoE attack, placing a decreased defense, the small version, but you're mainly going to be using her as well for just like the A1, straight up, just A1ing the entire time. The turn meter is going to be fully controlled. The decreased defense is alright if you're not going to be bringing it anyways, so if like there's no other decreased defense in your team, it's going to be decently worth it to also be bringing it, since it's a double hit anyways, so it's not like losing that much value. And anyways, you also got an A3 over here, which you will most often be disabling totally on the Fire Knight anyways, so it's really all about this turn meter decreasing on the triple hit, getting through the shield real quick, and then a little bit of accuracy on the aura, which is not going to be bad whatsoever. And we also have ACOT over here, which if you see right is going to be a massive addition to your Spider team, and that is because he's going to be spreading out HP burns literally everywhere. With an AoE attack with a not so high chance of placing the HP burns, then the chance of placing the debuff is increased by 20% for each alive enemy, meaning that if there's a lot of spiderlings, this is pretty much going to be a 100% chance. And then you can also get a little bit of a synergy over here where you are going to be placing fear debuffs with a decently low chance, only, what is it, 25%, anytime somebody with an HP burn is going to be taking damage, right? So if they are going to be taking the damage themselves whenever somebody else takes an HP burn tick, then this fear debuff is going to be having a decently fair chance of being applied, meaning that the spiderlings are more often than not going to be even taking turns. Then he also brings a decreased crit rate debuff, which is alright, I guess, if the spider is going to be doing a little bit of damage to you, but more often than not, that's not really going to be happening. And also increasing the cooldowns of enemies under HP burn. I mean, the spiderlings don't really have a cooldown anyways, and then placing a shield buff equal to 20% of the champion's max HP on all allies, so you got a little bit of extra survivability, but you're going to be bringing him for the control through the fear debuffs as well as the damage on the HP burns. We have a lot of decent champions on the Undead Hordes. I want to be mentioning two in particular. Bogoth is one that I do have in my team, and he's got massive reviews everywhere. He's going to be a tanky off healer who brings provokes, decrease attack debuffs if he actually manages to land the provokes. He's going to be bringing passive leech debuffs, allowing your team to be healing back quite a little bit of the damage dealt, and then also having a chance of decreasing the duration of random, or rather increasing the duration on random debuffs on the targets on a triple hitter A1. So you're going to be able to increase whatever poisons and stuff, meaning that it's going to be extra damage. He brings a lot of passive healing through his passives over here, and all in all, he's a solid tank with an aura for a little bit of accuracy. And then onto the Dark Elves, we have Madame Ceres. And just look at these reviews, man. Look at all those massive numbers, particularly in PvP, but literally everywhere, right? You got Magic Keep, you got Dragon Slayer, you got Void Keep, you got Spider's Den, all the keeps. I mean, entry level, mid-game, she's going to be a perfect addition to your team. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Maybe she does have a buff cleanse for all enemies, so like you're going to be removing anything that they're going to be having onto themselves, as well as getting a decreased attack, as well as a decreased defense debuff on every single enemy for 2 turns only through this one single ability alone on a 4-turn cooldown. Then she also brings quite some shenanigans here, stealing random buffs from the target, placing a block debuffs buffs onto the allies, so they're not gonna be getting any debuffs on themselves, only if any buffs were stolen. Also placing true fear debuffs on the enemies whose buffs were stolen. Also having the chance of applying fear debuffs naturally through the A1 with there are under 2 or more debuffs, which is going to be happening naturally through the A3. And then the passive over here is going to be placing a shield on herself for a bunch of their max HP, and then when attacked under that shield, there's going to be a chance of placing a fear debuff back to the attacker. So there's a lot of control from this one champion alone, getting a lot of the debuffs applied onto the enemy, most of the ones that you are going to be needing everywhere, and then also controlling all the buffing that the enemy is going to be doing onto themselves, and really just allowing to crowd control the hell out of the enemies with those fear debuffs. Onto the Knights Revenants, we have the Miscreated Monster, one of the prime control champions for Spider's Den in particular, bringing a lot of stuns through a bunch of his ability. The A1 is going to be having a decent chance of placing a stun debuff on a single enemy, as well as bringing the strong version of decreased defense only if the target is stunned, right? So yeah, that's all right, not going to be happening onto the bosses. Then an AoE chance of applying a stun, which is the main reason why you're bringing him, but also allowing for quite some survivability with the extra shield buff being placed on all allies based off of the damage done. He's going to be scaling off of HP, so he's going to be quite beefy and tanky, bringing ally protection to all allies except himself, as well as continuous heals. And then he's going to be having a passive where he's going to be placing fear debuffs whenever anybody with the ally protection buff is being attacked. And we're going to mention Rector Draft, who was also pretty much a free champion, one of the earlier battle passes in the game game as you start just playing this game. He's also part of some promo codes and stuff. He's going to be bringing a decreased attack debuff onto the A1, really damn useful. He's going to be also bringing Perfect Bale, healing all allies by quite a little bit, bringing continuous heal, and then also having a revive, as well as placing a Perfect Bale, which is really annoying in PvP in particular, and also having a little bit of a turn meter feel onto that revive, which is on a decently low cooldown. He also brings just heals literally everywhere. Whenever somebody with a Bale or Perfect Bale there gets a turn, they're going to be healed by 10% of their max HP. He's just got a lot of survivability in his entire kit. Man, the dwarves are stacked. They have so many good things over here. We have Morak, which I already covered, a massive AoE damage dealer here, with the A2 also placing a strengthening buff on all allies. Then she also brings an ally attack over here on the A3, granting an extra turn if the enemy is killed, and also just having a double hitter over here, which ignores shield buffs. But it's mainly really all about this A2, where she deals a lot of AoE damage, and then whenever she does get hit, when she has the strengthen buff, which she applies to the A2, she also counter attacks. She does a lot of damage everywhere. She's like very, very damn useful everywhere in the game. Really solid champion as well as a free one. We also have the Mytha, who enables Demon Lord unkillable teams, as well as just straight up being massively strong everywhere. She does have a little bit of shielding, as well as just the extra here duration of ally buffs by 1 turn increase, which is going to be enabling those unkillable and what you call it block damage setups, where you're not going to be able to be killed basically. Then decreasing the duration of all ally debuffs, which also works very well in the Demon Lord whenever you're cleansing those stuns, healing everybody, which is kind of whatever. And then she blocks over here the damage, where she's bringing herself this one buff that is extremely important, placing the block damage debuff, or rather buff, on all allies for a turn, which is going to be enabling what I just exactly mentioned, the Demon Lord unkillable, or rather slash block damage buffs or setups, which are just totally nuts, unkillable, totally busted. And then we have the Geomancer, man. Look at this guy's face. He's totally geeked out. He's tweaking. Look at those reviews. He has got a 4.8 almost literally everywhere except a couple of places, but he is going to be nuts in your team, right? He has a decreased accuracy debuff on the A1 on an AoE, okay? AoE A1 already decent enough, but he is going to be doing it all about the removing buffs from target enemies, which is going to be a steal buffs if the enemy is under an HP burn instead. Also then having a fully depletion of the turn meter, which is going to be fully, or rather filling his own turn meter by the amount that he's making the enemy lose, which in turn is just like a steal of turn meter. He also has a 100% chance of applying HP burn as well as a weaken on that target, so he's going to be doing nuts jobs for you. And he has a little bit of a synergy here with the HP burn, where he's going to be decreasing the damage all allies received and then deflecting that one onto the enemies with the HP burn, as well as deflecting the damage he himself takes onto the enemies. Onto the Shadow King faction, we have two interesting champions here. For the Ice Golem in particular, is going to be Toragi, with a little bit of poison application here. I think it's on his passive. Whenever he's attacked, he has a chance of applying a poison, which is going to also be bringing a 50% decreased attack debuff, which is going to be nuts for the Ice Golem. You do need to be surviving and being in there for the long run. As you can see, his Ice Golem is quite decent. And then he just brings a little bit of shielding, ally protection, reflect damage, actually putting up more poison debuffs. And that is really going to be key to skipping those passives, or rather, yeah, just really not triggering the revive on the enemies here, or the adds onto the Ice Golem. And then Hotatsu kind of does the same job a little bit, not bringing any poisons, but he does bring the survivability you need for the Ice Golem through a little bit of leech, decrease attack here on AoE, and on AoE setup, increase defense and continuous heal, and finally just removing potentially those freezes from the application that the Ice Golem is going to be doing. I do want to mention Hembo, who is quite great in Arena in particular. He's going to be doing a lot of AoE damage. He's going to be pretty much one-shotting everybody. Each hit he steals, rather attack one enemy 2 times, each hit steals increased attack buffs. So he's going to be getting those onto himself. Then an AoE attack over here with an 80% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs, which cannot be resisted. And then finally, increased crit rate buff, increased crit damage, which is really his whole idea. Granting himself an extra turn, buffing himself a lot, and then going for that big AoE, which is going to be removing all the buffs, or rather decreasing the duration, which kind of like most ideally would get all the defense debuffs away, or rather buffs, and then one-shotting the entire enemy team. That's usually what happens. Then he's immune to decreased attack debuffs, winning nor unkillable buffs, also attacking whenever he's under increased attack buffs, which is his whole idea, just getting those increased attack buffs onto himself. And he's also very speedy in Arena. And finally, we are on to the Sylvan Watchers, where I want to be mentioning Ruella, which kind of does the same job as the Allure, which is she's going to be bringing here, she has a triple hit on the A1 with, again, a chance of stealing the turn meter, right? So the Allure is going to be having a 25% turn meter steal through every critical hit. Instead, Allure, or rather, Ruella is going to be bringing only a 5% turn meter, but it's not a decrease, it's actually a steal, and it can go up all the way to 100% chance. Then she is also going to be bringing a very loaded and very offensive hit over here on the A2 with a decreased defense, a weakened debuff, a decreased speed of the bigger kind, 100% chance of applying, not actually 100% chance, it's actually 75%, or rather 70%, which is decently alright, but it's also a triple hit, which is going to be doing a lot of damage. And then she brings a turn meter fill for all allies and an increased crit rate buff together with an accuracy aura. Just look at those reviews, man. If you've made it all the way up to the end of the video, I really encourage you to check out Aptoide. It's going to be allowing you to get yourself bonuses whenever buying anything in Raid Shadow Legends through Aptoide. Those bonuses can go from extra 10% of any amount of money you're spending in the game, all the way up to extra 35% of that much money. And the good thing about the bonuses is that you can then go ahead and use them to buy the things for you instead of actually using your real money. So you're just going to be able to save up in further purchases as you are buying things that you would otherwise be buying anyways in the game, right? You can find out how to set it up on your Android devices like a PC and BlueStacks emulator, or just your Android phone very easily by following the link down there in the description. And if you go ahead and use my code, which is going to be somewhere up here in the screen, and input it into the Aptoide wallet, which again will be all explained about how to set it up down there in that link, then you're going to be able to get an even bigger bonus from the get-go, flat 5% bonus for literally ever. Just put it in there, and here in the wallet you will also be able to see your purchase history as well as how much bonus you currently have accumulated. So that's literally it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye. See you.